Today we're going to be talking about creating a pseudo long exposure photograph from a single still shot. The first thing that we need to do is click Command and J to get ourselves a duplicate layer. Using this, we're now going to use the quick selection tool and select the greenery and the houses. Well, the houses, I say houses, the reflection of the house and the reflection of the greenery and everything. And we just run round, just very carefully doing that, making sure that we've got everything selected. Now, we actually want the opposite selecting, so I'm going to hit on the shortcut, which is Command or Control if you're on a PC. So that's Command or Control, Shift and I, which will actually invert the selection to make that only the sky and the reflection. I'm now going to use the small rectangular with a little circle in it to add a layer mask, and I'm going to click on there, OK. And there you can see we now have the layer mask. Okay, I'm going to click back onto the photograph and click select, reselect, which is now going to reselect the sky and the reflection of the sky for me. I'm now going to hit Command J to make that into its own layer. Now we have it at the right hand side there. If we switch off the little eyes, we're going to be able to see exactly what we're dealing with and what we're going to actually make into our pseudo long exposure. Now, if we hit filter now, so it's filter, filter, blur, radial blur. What we need is the blur method to be on zoom. The amount I've already experimented, and that looks good at about 40. You could either use a slider or you can type in the number. Where the blur is, the blur center needs to be right in the middle. Quality, you can do as you wish. It's on good at the moment. So I'm going to click OK. And it will start to do the blur. But with this particular shot, we have a little problem. Because into the sky, we have some darker artifacts here and down at the bottom. We don't want those. I'll show you where they've come from. If we now go Command or Control and Z, we will actually undo what we've just done. And we can see that we've actually got in some of the foliage still from the original photograph. We didn't pick up everything with our mask. So, using the eraser tool, which is E on your keyboard, we're going to go around with this quite a soft brush, and we're going to just erase these little areas just so that they actually don't show up as streaks, dark streaks in our sky, because that would look silly. Okay, and anywhere else that you happen to see that could be causing a bit of a problem. Oops. Now, I'll just have to go Command and Z to go back on that one there. Okay, now, if we now go to Filter, Blur, and Radial Blur, we'll now notice, and click OK, obviously. You don't need to change anything because the settings are the same as they were before. Click on OK, and there we now have our radial blur. That's the sky and the reflection. If we bring back in our other eyes and our other layers, we will see exactly what has happened. We now have sky and clouds, but nothing else as a radial blur. And if we switch this on and off, we can see exactly what has happened. Now, the radial blur, though, layer is on top of the other layers. As a result, what we can see here, if I just go Command and plus or Control and plus and zoom in, we can see that the radial blur layer has actually because it's on top of the other layer, it's actually obscuring parts of the underlying layer, and you can see that because we've got radial cloud on top of the chimney. Clicking the eye on and off clearly shows that. So if we pick up the mask by clicking on it and just dragging it up onto layer 2, we can now see that we actually are masking out just round those round the chimney and the other parts. So if I hit shift, click onto there, we can see the mask on and off, and we can see that it gives us a nice clean view. So I'm now going to hit Command or Control 0, which will zoom us out to the normal view. The next thing I'd like to do is create a little bit of motion blur in the lake. Now it's a very still day and you have to be careful with the amount that you use. So first thing we've got to do is going to make a stamp of all these layers, and to do that I'm going to hit Command or Control, Alt, Shift and E, and there we have the layer. This is everything that's been done before it all amalgamated. So I'm going to go to Filter, Blur and Motion Blur. Now the thing is, we don't need to take any notice of the top part, just look at the bottom part, and we need to make a realistic amount of blur. There's not too much, because long exposure photographs tend to smooth out water. So here we have about 24 and click OK. Now you can see it's actually affected everything. So what we're going to have to do now is we're going to have to create a mask and mask it out. So create the layer mask, and we're going to use a brush, and we're going to sort of use a softish brush, and we need the foreground colour to be black. So if it isn't black, click on the X key and then make our brush reasonably soft. I've got about halfway there, as you can see. And then we need to paint on the top half of the photograph with that black brush, getting rid of all the motion blur that we have just put in. We need to go along the line where the riverbank, well, the lake bank touches the lake. Just be very careful going along there. Obviously you'd take more time reducing the size of your brush, etc. Now we could hit the Alt key and click on the mask, and we will see exactly what we have painted in black so far. And you can see that I've missed some out, so using the black brush we can just go over those areas and paint them in black. Hit the Alt key again, click back on the mask, and there we have it. From here, if you use the Alt key and click on the eye on the bottom layer, you can switch on the effect on and off, and there you can see we've come quite a way from having a still photograph to a pseudo long exposure photograph. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this short video. If you have any questions, please use the contact page on my website and I will answer any questions that you have. So all that's left for me to say now is thank you very much indeed for watching, and I hope you'll join me again the next time I put a video on my website. Thank you.